Our guest, a true original Star Wars fan, saw the films in theaters and now shares their incredible poster collection with us. They've brought iconic posters from one of the greatest movie franchises ever, including an original Star Wars one-sheet poster.
It says down here, one-sheet style A, which is why we call it the Star Wars one-sheet style A.
And an Empire Strikes Back poster. They're also showcasing a rare variant of a popular poster.
Return of the Jedi down here. This is one of the two standard poster styles from Return of the Jedi.
When these posters with their iconic styles go up for auction, they expect to fetch.
At auction, for these four posters in this condition, which they're still in wonderful shape, between $2,000 and $3,000 at auction.
Holy cow. Wow. That's really impressive.
This guest inherited this magnificent artifact from a cousin.
I inherited it about 14 years ago from a cousin who had been in the Women's Army Corps during World War II.
It's a lithograph of a cat created by Théophile Alexandre Steinlen. Steinlen was a Swiss-born French Art Nouveau painter and printmaker, renowned for his many works featuring cats, which he had a great affection for, as seen in numerous paintings. This print, made in 1909, is the Summer Cat counterpart to another piece titled Winter Cat. Clearly bearing the artist's signature and monogram, this painting is unique. However, without its accompanying piece, it is only valued at...
If I had to put a replacement value or a retail value on this, I would say it's around $10,000 to $12,000. So you're at the top end of the Steinlen
I'm stunned.
cat print market.
I'm stunned.
This guest brought a guitar to the show, which he acquired via an exchange trade with another guitar owner. This guitar is a Mosrite prototype guitar.
Strictly a prototype. This is all hollow. He called it the guitar with a built-in soul.
And the name Mosrite is a mix of its makers Semi Mosley and Ray Boatwright's names.
Mosley and Boatwright. That's where they came up with the name, Mosrite.
This Mosrite guitar isn't a standard typical one, as its back is a metal back that's screwed on. Along with the guitar is a photograph of the guitar's inside, with Mosley's signature in it. This guitar is an innovative musical instrument, and at auction would go for
retail $15,000, maybe more.
While serving in the Virginia Army National Guard, this guest purchased this wristwatch from a sergeant major.
Virginia Army National Guard, and I had a sergeant major who presented me with an opportunity to buy several Rolexes. They were all older. He was into the...
It is a Rolex Model 1680, the first Rolex Oyster Perpetual Submariner to feature a date. The serial number dates the watch to around 1974. Most of the watch's components are original except for the hands, bezel, and crown, which are gold and from a later period. The word Submariner on the watch is written in red, indicating the early stages of this model's production. The dial is a Mark IV, and the bezel insert is a Mark III.
The insert, which is what's inside the gold bezel, is called a Mark III.
Okay.
So those two things correspond perfectly with the 1974 production date.
Initially manufactured as a stainless steel Rolex Submariner, this piece has undergone some conversions, placing its worth at...
This would probably trade somewhere between $15,000 to $17,000.
Okay.
This guest's parents were astute collectors of art, and they acquired this piece from an antique store in Manhattan.
When he would see an interesting piece of jewelry from my mom, he would buy it.
Where did he find this piece?
And he found it at a shop in Manhattan, I believe.
Oh, okay.
Along with the jewelry collection is the manuscript. The letter is dated around 1912 and claims the origin of the pieces to be Canton, China, and dates their production to the early 19th century. However, the contents of the letter are incorrect.
The letter is interesting, the pieces are very interesting, but the letter is wrong. So the gentleman who wrote that had a good story, but he did not know.
As the material used to make the jewelry is filigree gold from Italy. Made from approximately 22 carats of gold, the work on the bracelet is extremely fine. The necklace, on the other hand, features stones made from lava.
That are surround this are made from lava. Each one of these pieces is basically God or a famous person.
These pieces are about 2 centuries old, in excellent condition, and at auction are valued at
A good day,
Yes.
it could bring $6,000.
Wow.
artifacts was inherited by this guest from her great-aunt.
As far as I know, it's an 1896 salesman's model of a Case agitator thrashing machine.
It is a complete flapper ensemble consisting of a pair of green leather gloves, a mesh bag with beautiful colored enamel over metal, a pair of shoes made from kid leather with an elegant black design, a silk dress with a simple but elegant design of American origin.
The great thresher machine makers, they started off obviously much smaller scale than this, and this was sort of the ultimate thresher. So the bundles go in here and the trains pull them up, and this mechanism cuts the strings.
A necklace made of jet beads and a cloche hat with a French couture look. This ensemble is quite wonderful, featuring a geometric pattern. Its market value should be estimated at
Auction value would be somewhere between $10,000 and $20,000.
Appreciate that.
The guest brought these musical instruments, which had belonged to his great-grandfather, a musician who performed in silent movie theaters. He specialized in sound effects and used to play all these instruments. This entire trunk was filled with his professional music tools. The guest demonstrated how these fascinating instruments create the sounds of horses, train whistles, and birds. This particular tool was a wooden slide whistle used to create intriguing sounds. The appraiser praised all these high-quality tools, including gizmos, bells, whistles, and mallets. To the guest's amazement, the appraiser estimated this interesting collection at
I've talked to a couple of my friends and colleagues. I think this is probably somewhere between $1,500 and $3,000 in value.
Wow.
We have here today a special guest, Mark Brown. Brown is an American author and illustrator of children's books.
If I'm working on something I really love, I forget to have lunch.
The appraiser talks to the author about his works and how much they would be valued at auction. Most of his works were inspired by people in his life, and having written over 130 books and 80 author books, Brown is a phenomenal author. At auction, the earlier works of Brown, because they showed his developmental process, would fetch a value of
I'm really interested to talk with Colleen about what its value is.
And his later collections, the mid-ranges, are harder to discuss due to their vastness. Regardless, at auction, these would fetch a value of
I used to get in trouble.
Lastly, the best works of the author. An example is a piece called Author's Christmas, featuring a beautiful watercolor, is estimated to be worth
Well over 1,000 for sure. More than thousands. How do I find a value? I know there'll be gradations of things and what they're worth, but what is a good starting point?
We are all nerds at heart, and what's more nerdy than having Pokemon cards? This set of Pokemon cards was bought online for the guest by her mom.
Now you might wonder where the name Pokemon actually comes from. That is an abbreviation of the name for the game in Japan, which was Pocket Monsters.
And it's the first 102 cards that were released in the Pokemon game. Wizards of the Coast were the publishers of these cards, which were produced in 1999. Another set includes the 16 original holographic cards, which are grouped into First Edition or Shadowless cards and Unlimited cards, with the famous Pokemon character Mewtwo cards being an example.
And this Mewtwo has a dark border, while on this side, you'll notice it's lighter.
Although the Pokemon market is extremely volatile, these are some great holographic cards and general Pokemon cards that would be worth.
We would say that your binder would be in the $5,000 to $10,000 range.
Wow, much more than I was expecting.
Okay.
Today's episode is quite informative as we are presented with what sailors in previous times used to navigate the seas. One of such items is an astrolabe from 1545, which was obtained from a shipwreck from 1554.
Simply, it tells you how far north or south you are on the ocean.
Astrolabes were used to determine latitude by sailors in the 1500s. Another of such items used by sailors is of the old chronometer.
Longitude was a much more difficult problem, but it requires a timepiece that was accurate within 2 seconds over a voyage that could have lasted months and even years.
Chronometers were used to measure longitude, and this chronometer was sold by Negus of New York about 1875. The value of a working chronometer was priceless, as determining longitude was a much more difficult problem back then. These are priceless items that detail the growth of sea travel and exploration and would individually be auctioned at.
Chronometers such as this appear frequently at auction. You can expect to pay between $2,000 and $3,000.
John, thanks so much.
You're quite welcome.
This guest's father was a lover of bronze sculptures, and after extensive negotiations, acquired this piece from an antique store, which was then passed down to this guest. This is a bronze sculpture depicting an archer. The sculpture originates from Japan, and like almost all Japanese sculptures and artifacts, it bears the signature of its maker, who wasn't a renowned artist of the period.
Now, Hidemitsu is not one of the major makers, so there's not a lot of information out there. Nevertheless, it's a terrific piece. Now, 1892 is an interesting time frame.
Dating back to the late 19th century, around the 1890s, this piece is in excellent condition. The sculpture showcases a typical Japanese warrior. Given its quality and artistry, its value is estimated at...
I would insure this for around $15,000.
Oh my.
This distinctive piece is a furniture set called Malit, produced by Knoll International in 1968. Knoll International is a very famous American company that manufactures office systems, seating, storage systems, tables, desks, textiles, and accessories for the home, office, and higher education. The guest's mother had studied architecture and was familiar with the designer, so when she saw it in a classified ad in the Detroit News, she bought it immediately. The stains and wear and tear indicated that it had been well used. The appraiser revealed that this furniture set was designed by Roberto Mata, the renowned Chilean artist. This piece was not only furniture, but could also be used as a sculpture, with a similar seating system showcased in the Philadelphia Museum of Art. There were a few stains, rips, and discolorations on the set. Due to the current condition of the piece, the appraiser estimated the price of this piece to be...
Unfortunately, in this condition, with the staining, for about half of that, about $1,200 to $1,500. But of course, you're going to keep it forever, I hope.
The guest purchased this painting at an estate sale about 15 years ago.
And I walked in, and this was on the wall next to the stairs, and I thought, yes, I have to have that.
This is a 19th century rendering of an early campus created with pastel, charcoal, and sand on paper. It is an art pastel of Dartmouth College. This piece does not bear a signature or date from the artist. However, by observing the colors, which are quite unusual for this type of art, one can appreciate the artist's ingenuity and brilliance in style. The condition of the piece is perfect, and given its quality, the painting would sell at auction for...
You've got an $8,000 to $12,000 estimate on this. It's a wonderful, wonderful piece. It was such a treat.
What we are looking at here is a piece of a firearm used in the Second World War. This guest's dad brought it back from Germany after the war.
I got it from my dad. He brought it back from Germany or Austria when he was in World War II and brought it back home.
Along with the gun is a manuscript, a certification from his superior officer giving him permission to take the firearm as a trophy of war.
But in this particular instance, you actually have a piece of paper signed by his commanding officer saying that it was okay.
Yeah, he told us that showed that it was okay for him to bring it back.
This firearm is a German over-under pistol with one barrel over the other. It was made in the mid-18th century, originally with a flintlock mechanism, and was later converted to a more modern ignition system called the percussion system. There were mechanisms put in place for the barrel of the gun to accommodate more than one shot.
And how they achieved that here was, if you cock the hammer back, there's a little release here, and the barrels turn over.
The name of the maker is inscribed under the barrel. Despite the conversion of the original mechanism, the pistol is in excellent condition, and in a retail setting will sell for.
At auction, I would figure it would sell for about $2,000 to $4,000.
Really?
Yeah. If it was original flintlock, it would be at least double that.
Oh, wow. Oh my goodness.
The guest acquired this magnificent painting at a garage sale for only $50. The appraiser identified it as an original, unstretched oil painting created on linen canvas. When the guest purchased it, the painting was folded and had a few wrinkles. The signature at the bottom of the painting revealed that it was a work by the renowned painter Buck McCain. Buck McCain was a self-taught artist who briefly studied art in Switzerland for about a year before returning to the West and focusing on painting Western themes. However, this piece was different from his traditional work, as it was used as an illustration in a book. The appraiser suggested that since the artist was still alive, he could provide better insight into his work. Praising the remarkable condition of this painting, the appraiser estimated its value at,
I think at auction today, we would probably value your painting by Buck McCain at $2,500 to $4,000.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
From the ancient civilization of Egypt, that's where the origination of this piece can be traced to. The piece is a funeral piece, commonly called a Ushabti figure.
And they were placed in the tomb with grave goods as a substitute for the deceased.
This figure is made out of faience, which is a non-clay ceramic. These types of figures were used by the Egyptians from around 500 BC and is from the 26th dynasty of the Egyptian kingdom. The figure has a triangular base and a tripartite wig typical of Egyptian figures.
It has a pick and a hoe either side, all very typical, very common.
On the piece are hieroglyphic texts, which are taken from the 6th chapter of the Book of the Dead. This is a fine piece of early Egyptian works, with early hieroglyphic texts, and is highly valuable and worth.
Conservative retail price for this would be between $6,000 and $8,000.
Okay. That's nice. That's nice. That's very nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
We are presented with a great piece of art, which this guest acquired from a friend. The piece is a stencil by a street artist called Paolo Bugini. Bugini is an Italian contemporary artist whose work is characterized by using dynamic media.
He was an Italian born in Florence in 1933.
This stencil is a template for a design Bugini had done, and we can see the different colors of paint he had used for the work on this piece. This stencil is duly signed by Bugini. Crafted by one of the most famous contemporary artists, this is a beautiful stencil that is valued at,
And I think conservatively it would be about $1,000 to $1,500.
Today's piece is a fun-looking piece of furniture. It's a well-crafted table that was made circa 1880. The legs of this furniture are quite unique.
The cabinet maker who carved these legs here was really having fun.
As it's a well-crafted depiction of a dog chasing a squirrel up a tree. Although we're not able to determine who it was that created the piece, it's an absolute surety that it was a master craftsman. This table is a uniquely carved and aesthetically pleasing piece and would be worth,
We would probably say at auction it would be worth between $5,000 and $8,000.
Okay, that's wonderful.
This item is a family heirloom that has been in the guest's family for generations. It is a bear figurine carved from walnut wood and used as a smoking stand. Often referred to as Black Forest carving, it features 3 little bear figures on the stand, and a large bear carving forms its support. Black Forest carvings like this one originated from Brienz, Switzerland,
They were very well established. In 1884, they actually started the Breen School of Wood Carving,
dating back to circa the early to mid-19th century. The large bear's head can be lifted, and on the inside is where the residues of ashes go. However, there are some noticeable signs of wear on the piece, like the broken hinge and the ashtray section that have had some replacements. This carving is so well done and very well preserved, at auction it would accrue a value of...
We feel like that a good insurance value on this would be $5,000.
Oh boy. Okay. Well, thank you.
A guest brought in a picture of Lookout Mountain that came from her husband's grandmother's family. It was identified as an original large folio Currier and Ives print. Currier and Ives was a prolific printmaking firm based in New York City, operating from 1835 to 1907. The company became famous for producing affordable hand-printed lithographs. The particular print was considered valuable due to its excellent depiction of Lookout Mountain. The remarkable American landscape featured a train, making it more desirable to collectors. Additionally, the print's well-preserved colors added to its value. The appraiser recommended having the spots on the print cleaned. After this restoration, the print's value could increase to about...
So then it would be worth about $6,000 to $6,500.
Okay.
That would also help preserve it.
Okay, great. Thank you.
It's a great thing.
We are presented with a set of vintage pottery. These pieces aren't just aesthetically pleasing, they exemplify culture and heritage. As a family heirloom, it has been in the Guest family for generations. This beautiful set is North Carolina pottery, crafted by Walter Stephen. Stephen was an American potter, best known for his unique line of functional pottery featuring painted layers of porcelain on stoneware. These pieces are dated circa 1950. With their stunning appearance and good condition, they are estimated to be worth,
as a group, somewhere between $1,000 and $1,500.
A fine piece of a miniature folk portrait is brought to the show. This portrait was acquired by this guest at an antique shop. A very well-made portrait, it was painted on ivory and is a portrait of a child, which is often desired by collectors. The artist who made this portrait is unknown, but a piece like this is thought to be from New England and done circa 1830. The case in which the portrait is kept is leather with mother-of-pearl and gilt embossing on it.
That's probably 25 years or so later than when the portrait was actually painted.
While the portrait is well done with captivating colors.
Well, the little petticoat,
yeah.
One barefoot and one shoe foot.
You know the thing that got me though? It was the look in the baby's eyes.
This is a fine miniature portrait with captivating artistry, and at auction, it would be worth...
This would be worth retail $12,000 to $15,000.
You are fooling me.
Mascots are a very important part of business, ranging from sports teams to clothing brands. Today's piece is the mascot display of the Hush Puppies Company. Hush Puppies is an American brand of casual footwear, and they use a basset hound named Jason as their logo. This display features Jason sitting in a friendly pose, creating an inviting visual presence, and serves as a memorable part of the customer's interaction with the brand. What do you think this piece from one of America's top footwear companies would be valued at?
And I said, how much is that dog in the window? And they said $50, and I said sold.
We've all imagined our favorite game being brought to real life. Well, today's piece is not exactly the same, as it's just a carving of a part of a game. The carving is a representation of the tower in the Mystery Tower of the Game of Life. What is quite unique about this carving is that it is done from a single piece of wood. Carved by a man called Theodore Strollo over a 4-year period, this work is truly an intriguing piece.
Not that I'm aware of. This is the only thing I know that he did. And when he finished it in 1938.
This work is so unique that it was exhibited at the International Exposition in San Francisco and at the World's Fair in New York City as part of Ripley's Oddities.
Truly wanted this to be exhibited because it was 4 years of his life.
On the base of the piece is Theo's signature as well as 1938, the year the piece was completed. This piece is an example of true dedication and fine craftsmanship, and with its history and allure, it would be worth.
Being in the auction business, we're thinking somewhere, let's say $5,000 or more.
A guest shared the story of a mirror originally bought by his maternal grandparents. The appraiser identified the mirror's maker as Line Vautrin, a renowned French jewelry and mirror designer. Vautrin was a family of jewelers and metalworkers initially focused on jewelry before gaining recognition for her mirrors. The particular item features a resin structure with intricate mirror panels, exhibiting great craftsmanship. The fragile piece was likely produced in the early 1960s and was acquired around the same time. They noted Vautrin's work remained relatively unknown until gaining recognition in 1986. The appraiser confirmed the mirror's authenticity by pointing out Vautrin's signature on the back of the panel. Based on current market trends, the appraiser estimated the mirror's auction value at
beautiful mirror would be $40,000 to $60,000.
Oh, wow. That's crazy.
Looking like a piece done during the Egyptian revival, these items are a fine work of pottery. The pieces are a tray with base made by Leon Volkmar.
His father was also a potter. His name was Charles Volkmar, and Charles studied in France.
The tray, typical of Volkmar's work, features rich, complex glazes with deep, lustrous finishes.
Leon would work on glazes and the concept of glazes.
While the base is adorned with intricate mythical creatures. Both pieces carry Volkmar's signatures and thus show their authenticity, and highlights the heavy influence of the Art Nouveau and arts and crafts movement. These pieces are a harmonious blend of artistic beauty, characterized with intricate designs, and would be valued at.
As an auction estimate, I would easily put $1,000 to $2,000 on it.
Oh my goodness.
A look at this painting can transport one to the rocky shores depicted in it. This absolutely stunning work of art was done by Edward Henry Potast. Potast was an American Impressionist painter known for his paintings of the beaches of New York and New England.
He was known for really capturing the light of outdoor scenes.
This painting carries the original artist label, which states "The Coast, Ogunquit," along with Potast's signature to show its authenticity. This painting shows a broad, expansive view of the beach and feature a vibrant and varied color palette, where bright, saturated colors are used to depict the sun and the beach.
The condition of the painting, oil on board, is completely original.
This painting captivates a depiction of the beach characterized by the use of vibrant colors and would be auctioned at.
I'm going to value the painting at $25,000.
Wow.
We are presented with a dower chest on today's show. The guest purchased it at a thrift store after falling in love with it. This item dates back to 1785 with an interesting backstory.
That is an interesting story. It's not quite from Philadelphia, but it is what we call a paint-decorated blanket chest or dower chest. And it was likely made in either Dauphin County, Lebanon County, or Montgomery County, Pennsylvania.
It features a tripartite paint decoration and also a center panel. Fascinatingly, this panel symbolizes commitment or marriage, which is where the name dower comes from. Opening this chest up, we see some wonderful strap hinges that are original. And it also features a nice well and a till to store valuables.
The Pennsylvanian cabinet makers were famous for putting hidden spots so you could hide your valuables. If you were a thief, looks like you've got only this.
Although the top of this chest is pretty worn, it's in pretty good condition overall. This chest, featuring hidden drawers and nice hand paintings, would go for a significant amount at auction.
I would conservatively place an estimate of $3,000 to $5,000 on it.
Wow.
So that's quite a find.
Wow.
We're presented with vintage furniture that has gone out of vogue. The furniture, a writing armchair, was passed down to the guest.
This is sort of a late example of a form that we call a writing arm Windsor chair.
Made in Pennsylvania, this chair features classical motifs. The chair's date of craftsmanship can be set to circa 1835. Quite different from typical chairs, this chair has a drawer made from a different secondary wood than the actual chair.
Poplar, which is a wood that's indigenous to Pennsylvania and often used there.
The designs on the chair are its original ones from its craftsmanship, and it has multiple drawers positioned in different places on it. The historical significance of this armchair, exhibiting the classical features of this iconic furniture style, would make it worth
Came up with a value of, let's say for auction purposes, somewhere around $1,500.
Wow.
We are presented with a fine collection of jewelry in this episode. These pieces of jewelry were passed down to this guest by her mother. Well-made, sculptural, and unique, the jewelries were crafted by Karen Margaret Johnson.
There's not much information about her, but she fits in with a lot of other artists during that period.
And are made with brass, all handcrafted. Some of the jewelry incorporates beadwork, which is often seen in the 1970s jewelry, as it adds a dimension to its design. Each jewelry features bold and funky styles that capture the unique fashion trends of the 1970s.
It's wonderful jewelry. I love the 1970s sculptural, really interesting pieces.
With unconventional shapes that make each one stand out as a distinctive statement accessory. This collection of jewelry captures hearts with its unique designs and shapes, and individually, each piece would be worth,
a similar category as this set. So I would say, again, $1,000 to $1,500.
There are many stories about World War I, but having a personal narrative of it is often more enlightening. This item, brought in by the guest, is an archive of a soldier who had been part of the war. The soldier, who was a pilot in the Air Force, was named Joe McClinton.
First of all, let's point out a few of the things that you have here.
Okay.
This is 2-volume diary.
Yes.
Joe was a photo reconnaissance pilot during World War I, taking pictures during the war, along with detailing information about his daily life, which are recorded in this journal. There is also a letter Joe had written to his family detailing his journey during the war.
And I found it fascinating looking at the sections, reading about how they were flying, what they were flying.
Telling us about the life Joe and other valiant soldiers who fought for freedom during the war. This archive is a collection of a valiant soldier's experiences, and with its historical significance, it would be valued at
is probably in the $5,000 to $7,000 on a $10 investment.
Yes, I'm ecstatic. I'm ecstatic. I'm veteran red face right now. I appreciate it.
An incredible collection from the legendary surfer and wrestler Ron Drummond was brought to the show by the guest, who is his great-nephew. The items include a picture of this legend surfing.
Yeah, I think the impetus for him was to educate people and to get them actively interested in the ocean.
And another picture of him as a wrestler with his stage name, Whisker Blakes. Interestingly, this collection features his book titled The Art of Wave Riding, which is an incredible find for people in the surfing world. This particular book usually doesn't show up in good condition, but this item here is a personal copy of Ron Drummond. This makes it special, and at auction, together with the associated photographs and archival material from the family, it has a price value of
would have an auction value of sort of $6,000 to $8,000 as a group. So it's a phenomenal collection and an amazing thing to see here in the beach in San Diego.
Thank you. Never gonna sell it.
Okay, good.
I'm holding on to it.
The French are known to be masters in creating designer clothes, but this figural clock reaffirms their creativity in other crafts too. This clock is a work of art possessing a golden dial. Even though the features are important, what's most astonishing about this clock is not the dial or its features.
So I believe this was a French clock that was marketed by them. Now, clocks of this style were very popular in the 1870s and 80s, and they're very common.
But its retailer, which existed for over 200 years.
This firm has an excellent history. They were formed in 1751, and they advertised that they made the finest clocks and watches of the day.
Clocks such as this one were popular during the late 19th century.
In this instance, I don't believe that's true because this clock dates from the 1870s or 80s.
Nevertheless, this type is unique in that it's much higher quality than other antique clocks. The detail on this clock is spectacular, and at auction today, it would be worth
Retail gallery, I could easily see it priced at $5,000 to $7,000.
Cool. I'm happy with that.
Don't look away because of the nudity of the statue. Contrary to what you're thinking, this statue is a piece of art and was created by Demeter Chipara, and the statue is called Invocation.
Well, it's a wonderful little piece. It's by the artist Dimitri.
One of the first features you can notice is how the statue is in top condition.
This piece happens to be gilded.
Plus how it shines, which insinuates the quality of the material used to craft it. The brown shine insinuates that it was made from bronze. An appealing feature also is the attention to detail used in creating the masterpiece. Due to its nude nature, one might think it won't auction at a lot. Yet it's worth.
I feel it's worth between $4,000 and $5,000 is my opinion.
Oh my word. You must be kidding.
No, this is not Aladdin's rug, even though the rug is from Iran, which is modern-day Persia. It incorporates the Iranian beauty and creativity to give it an Aladdin look.
I would say that it was made somewhere in the 60s, so it was probably a new rug when it was given to your in-laws.
What's interesting about this particular rug is that it is widely popular.
Well, the rug is a Persian rug. It was made in Iran, and it's called an Isfahan.
And it was made in the 60s, at a time when rugs such as this were in wild demand. The rug is finely woven to show the expertise of the Iranians.
The Middle Eastern market is buying these back.
The rug is called a Serafian Isfahan to depict where it was made from. As a representation of Iran's creative expertise, this rug would auction today at.
This collector would pay $15,000 for this rug.
Well, my mother-in-law would be very happy to know that. She was always very proud of it.
In today's episode, we feature items from an American celebrity, Carla Hall. Hall is an American chef, television personality, and former model. What Hall brought to the show is a collection of her grandmother's bags, which was passed down to her.
With the pearl F on the center. These are all hand-stitched, and then it's hand outlined in gold bugle beads.
Among these bags is one with a handcrafted F, with floral motifs etched on its center with gold bugle beads, which was made by a company called Patricia, based in Miami. Another one of the bags is from the 1950s or 60s and was made by Sydney of California. The last bag, which is the oldest of the group, was made in Havana in the 1940s and is the most unique looking as it has an alligator design made on it.
People either really, really love them.
Collectively, these bags are all unique with their different styles and makes, but at auction would be valued individually at
a retail sale in that you have to find another person who's got an F initial.
Oh.
And then this one is in the $300 to $350 range.
Meticulously handcrafted from the finest materials, these Steiff beers brought in today by this guest are of impeccable quality. Made by the German-based plush toy company founded in 1880, these beers are early Steiff beers and were made in the early 20th century.
Some of the features here, the nose in particular, is made of sealing wax, and Steiff did this about the turn of the century.
The beers have leather-covered shoe buttons as their eyes, and just a look at them tells a story of the creativity and passion put into their making.
You can see the stitching on the pads here, and that's a light brown stitching, and the interior would be stuffed with wood shavings, what is called Excelsior.
Along with the beers is an X-ray that shows their interior. These bears from the company that claims to have made the world's first factory-made teddy bear are sure to be in high demand and be worth
in upwards of $20,000.
That's
which
great.
is really nice.
That's great.
A glance at this chair makes you think it's like every other chair, but it is in fact a very rare type of federal chair. The chair was made in Boston from mahogany wood in the early 19th century.
Looking at the reeding, which is classic reeding on a federal chair you'd see in Boston, as well as these signature acanthus leaf carvings on the baluster, which are typical of Boston.
Usually, chairs like these degrade or are attacked by termites, but this one in particular shows its quality as it's maintained its longevity. Contrary to what most would think, these chairs were not produced for federal figures. Rather, they were produced during the Federal Style period, which spanned from 1789 till 1823. Given its rare nature, today, this type of side chair would auction at
If they came up at auction, would be estimated at about $1,000 to $1,500.